Hello to a few people who watch these videos. Today's video is just going to kind of be explaining the two main philosophies that are going in For Honor right now. Just because after the CC, a lot of people are really mad about the changes, a lot of people like the changes. But I'm going to be using one of Freeze's video, the one where it talks about countering light spam, as just the opposite of my opinion. My opinion is that the game shouldn't be read-based, and the opinion that he put in that video is that it should mainly be read-based. And since these are like philosophy things, nothing is actually like right or wrong. It's more of just about how you look at it. I think personally that read-based offense in this game isn't healthy for the game or the player base, and he believes that it is healthy. The way I'm going to structure the video is pretty much, since I can't really use OBS, I just took note cards and pretty much just wrote down all the points that he made in the video in chronological order. I'm not going to go with, like, what I think, like, what I agreed with and what I disagreed with. I'm just going to go in chronological order. There weren't a lot of points. I only have about, like, 4 note cards worth, so the video shouldn't take all too long, but I'll just say if I agree or disagree. If I disagree, I'll explain why. There's a reason that why I agree, then I'll just say what the reason is. Sometimes they'll be simple, sometimes they won't be simple. Also have a little bit of like video stuff to show why I feel certain ways, and just my personal opinions on the topic. The first point that he makes isn't really a point, it's more of just a fact, where he just says there's just been a lot of outcry in the community, both on console and PC, and he talks about why later, so I'll also just talk about why later. But he also then follows up with just saying that console's harder to react to. That's pretty much a fact at this point. There's just a lot more input delay. I believe I did a short video on that. But yeah, console's harder to react on, so the changes will affect console and PC players differently. And to go with that, Ubisoft has already said that separate balancing is just never going to happen. Probably just because it takes a lot of resources, and also would kind of make it like 2 different games. But just having it be not separate balancing is a little bit bad in my opinion, just because they are definitely 2 different ways of playing the game. Console is pretty much just an unoptimized version of the PC version at this point. The first actual point that I wrote down is that he says if you can't react to something, then stop trying to. Which, that makes sense for, like, the read-based game. Currently in the game, you have to use just, like, the tools that you've been given, which is frame advantage, stuff like that. Dodging out of stuff, which is tools that Ubisoft has given us. He talks about that later, so again, I'll talk about that later. But he just said, if you can't react, then you should stop trying. Personally, I don't really like this, mainly just because a lot of the standing light, like pretty much every light except for the 400 millisecond combo lights, which are the ones that he's talking about in the video, are reactable. It's just a lot harder to react to them, and this is one of my points on console, because I pretty much only play on console. I've only played on PC like once, and it was like freaking god mode, if I'm gonna be completely honest. But back to what I was saying, pretty much on console, if you want to be able to react, even the standing lights, at least for me, I have to like super try hard, which personally I think is unhealthy for the game, just because I don't want to be, because a lot of the matches in For Honor, mainly breach matches, they take a while, and I don't want to be like super try harding for the entire thing, which at that point the game's not really like fun. So if the game's not fun, then why play it? The next point that Freeze talks about is just my main point of why I think the For Honor should definitely be reaction-based and not read-based, is because For Honor is not like any other traditional fighting game. Just because there's 3 different sides, you can kind of just do stuff at neutral. Spacing is definitely not a very big thing unless you play a character like Nusha or PK that has like 0 range. But to add on to that, another thing is that lights generally do a little bit more damage, along with lights not actually setting up in any confirmed combos. Combos aren't really a thing in this game. People usually just call it mix-ups, because it's not confirmed. And if it is confirmed, people just call them punishes, just because combos really aren't a thing. But making a game that's based on reactions and making like 3 different like guard stances, I don't really think that they can really make that like a reaction based game and make that like super enjoyable. Just because if you just add reads to that, you have to read whenever they're going to like throw the attack, which could be at any point from neutral. Once they get into their chains, I can understand having like 400 millisecond combo lights, but like even then you have to guess one of 3, and they can still just mix it up into like a heavy feint GB. They could heavy feint dodge. They could do pretty much anything from there, which is why personally I don't think it's healthy for the game for it to be like read based. Up until this point, I've mainly just been regurgitating what Frieza said, just because I've mostly agreed, just because a lot of those were like facts. But now here's where I'm gonna get more of like differing in like ideology. I'm gonna group 2 things together. He said that you need to make reads, and if you don't get used to it, then you're gonna get spammed. And countering spam is like not an improvement, and people shouldn't do it. So the first one is that if you need to make reads, so you get used to it or you get spammed. I really don't like the philosophy that he's peddling, where it's just like whatever the developers do, you have to go with it, get used to it, or you're gonna get left in the dust. I feel like the community needs to be active in how these changes are so that we can better the game, because I think we can all agree, at least for console, that the CCU made a lot of fucking like changes, like a lot of bad changes that made the game not enjoyable, and a lot of people are not having very much fun playing the game. But a lot of people do, mainly on PC, have a lot of fun with it, or people that just couldn't react to lights in the first place don't really have much change. I have some friends that feel that way, and that's fine. The next thing is that counter spam isn't actually going to make you like better at the game. And to that, I'm just going to say that with the tools Ubisoft has given us, like mainly being able to dodge at stuff, you can't really do anything after that. Especially with characters that have like hyper armor finishers, you really can't do anything except guess. Even after you like get hit and then dodge a second one. I'll put a clip in here just to show you like different ways that you can do stuff. But with all of the like different things that we have, the most effective is actually just to spam the other person back, just with how much damage that lights do. And it's at that point it just becomes a guessing game. It's just who can guess which side the light's gonna come from first, and like that's really just about what it is. Just because a lot of dodge attacks do like barely any damage, PKs is probably the biggest offender of that. And like I said, with hyper armor stuff, it really fucks with it, just because you're just gonna get like trade for really high damage, like the heavy finisher, or maybe just a slightly boosted damage light finisher. If you noticed in the clips that I showed against the Kensei, who has like the chain finisher lights that have hyper armor, pretty much none of the, unless if it's just like parrying the light, or just deflecting the first or last light, pretty much all of them were just trades where I got the worst end of it. And that's the main reason why I think it's not very good, because either way, is if you don't just use the basic defense mechanics, at least against people with hyper armor or that ignore the frame advantage stuff, then you're pretty much just gonna be dead if you don't just react to the lights, which a lot of people, especially on console, just can't. There's still people on PC that can't, but there's gonna be people that can't react to lights on either thing, but it's mainly a console thing. The first thing that he talks about for actually countering light spam is first to just rematch people, which, it makes sense. The only problem is that a lot of people, don't rematch, because usually the people that you fight against, you don't like their playstyle, because there aren't really a lot of fun playstyles now. Because either you light spam, or you don't light spam. If you light spam, then you're going to be annoying to fight, but you're probably going to win. If you don't light spam, then, well, I guess you're fucked. The other one is dodge out of chains, and high iframe dodges being good, mainly in Tiandi and JJ. I'd say Tiandi and JJ are definitely a lot better now just because of that. But for characters that have normal dodge attacks, they can't really utilize them for any character that's hyper armor, like I showed with Kensei. I'm guessing Raider would also be a thing, but mainly just the chain finisher lights are the thing that I'm worried about. But dodging out of chains with that won't really work. Against other characters, then yeah, dodge attacks might be able to work. You might interrupt them, The only problem is slower dodge attacks, like especially Lawbringer's Shove not having hyper armor now. Kind of makes him like a lot worse. Next is Conqueror's Zone mid-chain. This is a thing only for Conqueror, just because his zone has an all-guard property. Conk already was the best defensive character in the game, so it makes sense for him to have something like this. But I feel like it just seems a little bit too defensive. Like, I feel like that's really, really good. Okay, so getting into some of the discrepancies he talked about with frame advantage. Because you feel like if they were going to make frame advantage like a really big thing with defensive instead of like reacting to stuff, being able to dodge edge chains and stuff, and just you'd feel like they would standardize it, but they just really didn't. Like, a lot of the cast has some really weird numbers. Like, some of the ones he listed off were Shaman, Soft Feint, PK's, Bleed After Heavy, Warlord's Headbutt, Warmonger's Bash, Valk's Side Light Finisher, which is kind of like a bash, so that one makes more sense. All of Nobu's Finisher Lights, all of her Viper's Retreats, all of her Dodge Lights, Orochi's Chain Finisher stuff, Shaolin's Key Stance Lights, Highlander's all of his lights, and Goki's lights. Pretty much any character that has a dodge cancel for their recoveries is going to be like a lot better. Like I said, Nobushi. Nobushi's kind of fun though, just because she doesn't do a ton of damage, but also her dodge attacks don't do a lot. But I feel like if that's going to be like one of the main things that you're going to try to use for defensive stuff, like at least do a little bit for like standardizing it instead of just, you know, having it be there and then have like half of the cast not actually follow those rules. Along with just people not actually being in range for a lot of those. Like, I'm pretty sure if you're playing like Nusha and a Kensei just starts spamming you, it's not going to do too much. Just in case people don't understand like what frame advantage is and like why it was implemented, pretty much after someone finishes their chains or like they throw an attack, you're supposed to pretty much have your turn after theirs is done. So let's say someone has like a 3 light chain, you have a 3 light chain, they finish their 3 light chain. If you both press the light button at the same time, yours is going to come out faster just because they have delay after their chain. So that's why the discrepancy is kind of pretty big, because currently counter spam is kind of just the best thing to do, or just, you know, try to react to the lights, but a lot of them you just can't. And if you don't feel like try-harding, then you're probably just not going to have fun. After he talks about that, he moves on to his conclusion, where he pretty much just restates, for the first point at least, he just restates no opponent's patterns, full moveset, dodge out of their chains, and know what has frame advantage and what doesn't. Which, you know, with the stuff, you definitely have to. Like, knowing moveset was already a thing before, but no opponent's patterns. A lot of people, especially now, there's like, no one's gonna like react to my shit. They probably don't even look at the screen. You can just press light and then change guard directions. Like, half the time, I feel like they just don't even know what they're doing as well. Like, if someone's playing like a Kensei, yeah, eventually they're gonna throw a top light, just because every Kensei does it. Or like Warlords are always gonna eventually throw that right side light, because they always do it too. But, you know, patterns with people, some people just do random shit and it just works, but most people have some sort of pattern that they go by. Next is, he said, some people hope there's a miracle tech, that he said that you can use, but that would defeat the purpose of having viable offense. So I feel like having, you know, some sort of technique to cover multiple options, aka option selecting, is, you know, pretty important. And, you know, option selecting is a very broad term. Like, just the zone option select is mainly what comes to people's minds whenever they think about that. But also, like, all guards they cover multiple options, you know, blocking in all directions, but it comes with a drawback of not being able to parry from it, and also not being able to counter guard break from it. So if there's going to be, like, different options that it covers, then there's got to be drawbacks. Same with option selecting. You can't feint your option select, but it also covers the guard break. So if someone feints the guard break, you'll cover the guard break option, but if they feint and parry your zone, you can't feint your zone. So anything that covers multiple options should have drawbacks, at least in my opinion. As for people hoping that there's just like a miracle tech, I could understand that, because frankly, like, at least with myself, I'm done with this shit. with like For Honor, because it's just not fun anymore. Just because people just go up to you and start light spamming. It's either I lose because I'm trying to like do something, or I win because I try hard, and I don't want to try hard like all the time. Like I used to be a super try hard at this game. About the time like when I made my Sweaty Valk video, which is like a few months ago, maybe around a year. I don't actually remember. But I stopped tryharding, tried to like enjoy the game a little bit more, and I don't want to go back to trying to be a tryhard just so that I can kind of enjoy the game. Just because that's, not very fun. For Honor in itself is never really going to be a competitive game. I don't think that's even what the developers want for that, or at least I hope that's not what they want, because there's pretty much no way that that's going to happen. Just because you can't really balance a game with this many characters, make it competitively viable, at least in 1v1s. In 4v4s, there's some competition, but even then, people roll with like certain characters. They're single pick because they don't want everyone to just pick like a group of 2 different characters that are the best at bashing, best at throwing top heavies. So, like, if you're just thinking like, oh, some people just always want to try hard because the game's competitive, it's not competitive, like, pretty much at all. The most the competitiveness you get is just someone trying to shit talk you because they're at the bottom of the leaderboard and they don't like it. Back to what Freeze was talking about, he said inform yourself of options instead of trying to react. I think I already talked about why I didn't like just saying just stop trying to react. But another thing about that, if you just, stop trying to react, then, you're just going to get hit. That's the problem. In order to get into any of the stuff that would help you with the chains, you have to get hit by the first hit, and then you're eating a light, which is damage, which will eventually kill you. And even then, the options that you have after that aren't confirmed damage, and you're not confirmed to get out of it, especially if they have, like, hyper armor follow-ups or anything like that. So the options in themselves aren't really very good, especially with the inconsistencies between the different characters and their frame advantages. The next thing that Freeze says, I just really don't like this one. I'm gonna be honest. This one's a very, opinionated thing. I don't even know why he said it. It's kind of just a little bit stupid. He said, light spam can be overcome, and not a single good player will say it's OP. So, the second part of that's the thing that has me a little bit fucked up. But yeah, light spam can be overcome by an individual, if you just, like, coke up before a match and, like, parry every light. I do that sometimes. Yeah, it can be overcome. But the thing where it says not a single good player will say that light spam is OP. Like, maybe personally to them, it's not a problem. But, like, to people that don't, like, sit there and try to fucking, like, drink caffeine for, like, fucking 10 minutes before they start playing a game, or don't want to, like, super try hard, or the reaction times aren't very good, it's not healthy. It's not a good thing for the game. Even if you personally can react to it, it's still hurting, like, the majority of the player base. So that's why I think that that's just really not very good, and especially just not healthy for the game to think just because I can do something about it, but the community can't, the majority of the community can't do anything about it, then it's fine because it doesn't bother me. But like I said, for me personally, light spam isn't too much of a problem, but for my friends and people that I've seen and people that, like, especially people that play console, it's a big problem. It's really hurting the enjoyment of the game and just the player base in general. Especially for console. I think I said that like 5 times now. But the next thing is just either improve or complain. Fuck you. That's pretty much all I'm gonna say for that. It's like, oh, yeah, the developers made a really shitty thing. Either you get better, or you're gonna die. That is just not fun, like, at all. I'm not gonna sit in a room for fucking a few weeks shooting up shit in my arm, trying to get fucking dubs in my fucking For Honor game. I'm sitting here trying to have some fun. Like, on PC, again, it's not too big of a problem. On console, a lot of people are having fucking problems. That's why people are complaining, because people are having problems with it. It's not fun, so that's gonna hurt the player base. It's not healthy for the game. But yeah, I'm getting a little mad on that one, so I'm just gonna move on to the next one. That the community complains about everything. Doesn't matter what community it is, you're gonna have people complain about anything. whenever pretty much the entire community on like a platform complains about something, it might be a problem. And to cite where he was talking about like, oh, they got an entire character nerfed because of it in the form of Orochi, just his light chains getting slowed down to 500. Like, yeah, that's kind of fucking stupid. Ubisoft shouldn't just be, oh, this small portion of the community is complaining about light spam. What we should do is nerf one character instead of dealing with the bigger problem. That's not because the community was complaining about only Orochi, that's just because Ubisoft doesn't know how to deal with, problems whenever they make a huge change like that, probably because it's a newer thing to them, especially in For Honor. It's a very unique game. There's no other game that's like it right now. I don't really know why there's no other game like it right now, but there just isn't. But community complaints about everything. They do. If you go on like r/For Honor rants, it is pretty fucking funny. Just because there's usually a lot of dumb shit. I'm a pretty dumb shit too. Like, I'm making this video right now. Like no one's gonna see this, but even if they do, like, just know it's my opinion. It's my opinion. This is about like game theory and the philosophy of how I think the game should be. Like, none of this is fact, and none of this is set in stone. Like, some people might enjoy the game like in a really different way. Like, some people might want everything to be unreactable and just like completely guess. Maybe they want it to be like a rock paper scissors game where you have picks and counter picks. Maybe they want everything to be extremely reactable and they want to be able to like sleep while playing the game. Everyone wants something different from the game. And, you're never going to be able to please everyone. Everyone has different opinions on everything. But this is just my opinion on it. So don't really take it too seriously. Most likely you're going to have a differing opinion. And if you do, then, don't sweat it too much. Feel free to leave a comment, that can be fine. I'll probably respond to it just because usually a lot of people don't comment anyway. The next one, which is the last one, is just adjust. And complaining will get you nowhere. The reason that people complain is because something is wrong, and when something is wrong, people usually want it to be fixed. So, whenever people want it to be fixed, they complain about it so that the developers will hopefully fix it. That's why that's a thing. And if you just adjust to it, then you're not exactly fixing the issue. You're just having maybe like the top players in each like platform make it so they adjust, and then everyone else gets left in the dust. They're not having fun, and they might leave. Like, I'm not having too much trouble with it. I left because, it's not very fun to just try hard the entire time. I also put down next to it to just take it lying down, because that's really what it sounds like he wants people to do. I heard that from a different YouTuber, though. I just thought it was funny. I watched a few videos on how people thought of it. The other one, I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'll try to find it. If I do, I'm going to put it like right on the video. I'll also link that one in the description and by where Freeze's video is in the comments. But yeah, those are my thoughts just with Freeze's video and his opinions. For mine, I pretty much just said what they were while doing it. So I don't think I'll need to have like a separate category in the video for that. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Don't take it too seriously. This is a game, and I'm trying to have fun in this game, not have to try hard all the time. But anyway, see ya.